Welcome to Future Men Audio, where we talk about supporting a better future for every boy, every man, and everyone. Part 1, Masculinity. Masculinity, a hot topic of discussion. From Piers Morgan to Gillette, numerous commentators have brought their perspective to the topic and, judging by the resulting outpouring of public sentiment, there is no shortage of personal opinion on the topic. In this blog series, we will be looking into the topic through the lens of the people that Future Men works with, boys, young men, and men aged 0 to 25. Before getting into the details, it is important to establish a few things. Who are Future Men? Future Men launched in May 2019 and is the evolution of a charity that began in 1988 as Working with Men. There was an increasing professional interest in public concern about men, particularly the changes faced at the end of the 20th century and a perceived crisis in masculinity. Most of the work consisted of reports, publications, developing resources, and research around masculinity, but there was little in the way of direct support. In 2004, Working with Men registered as a charity and began to use its extensive experience across a range of activities, projects, and programs. The last decade has seen a dramatic expansion of policy and practice initiatives seeking to address new challenges related to boys and men, and Working with Men has evolved with them. The work delivered has always been person-centered, meaning that we have started by taking the time to understand the needs of the person we are working with and building the rapport necessary to deliver effective work. We work with those around a young person to gain a global view of needs and be able to deliver benefits to the young people in multiple spheres, be they at home, in school, at work, or in the community. 30 years of delivering work to this client group has developed significant insights and learning points. The move from Working with Men to Future Men is underpinned by a clarification of the organization's ethos. From this strong practice-led evidence base, we have developed a series of characteristics that are core to the successful functioning of boys and young men today and going forward. The 7 characteristics are non-violence, the ability to solve problems without hurting others; resilience, the ability to recover when things go wrong; inclusiveness, open to the possibility of including different people; reflectiveness, learning from the things that happen to you; resourcefulness, the ability to make the best of what you have; curiosity, being interested in the world around you; and empathy, the ability to see the world from other people's perspectives. What does Future Men do? Programs and activities delivered by Future Men focus on the transitional times in life, such as starting school, getting a job, or becoming a parent. These are the times when men and boys are most likely to encounter challenges and therefore to engage or seek help. The aim is to significantly reduce the number of boys and men, particularly from socially excluded or disadvantaged backgrounds, who are unable to achieve their full potential. We do this using a range of evidence-based programs and tools that explore issues related to masculinity, improve resilience, attainment, self-efficacy, and mental health. The work covers 4 broad areas: fathers, youth work, those not in employment, education or training, and emotional literacy. To see more about the work, please visit futuremen.org. What is masculinity? Future Men intends to add to the wider discussion of masculinity, not to challenge or confirm other people's understanding of the term. The intention in this section is to provide an overview of the topic by referring to the work of some academics and a high-level view of some of the discussions. From the outset, and to dispel a vast misunderstanding, masculinity is not defined by a biological function. Definition of sex is biological, whereas masculinity is a set of characteristics, behaviors, or attributes that society deems to be typical of masculine types. The concept of masculinity differs across societies, cultures, and time, and females can demonstrate masculine traits. Social structures, including families, workplaces, and communities, are in constant flux, resulting in new questions being posed to individuals and groups about their psychosocial makeup. Potentially, The breadth and depth of these questions have intensified since the Second World War and women's increased presence in the labour force, and this presence has brought with it measurable productivity out of the house. More specifically still, it is possible such questions have again intensified as younger generations of males and females are born into social conditions where traditional norms are challenged at great speeds. From a male perspective, many, though not all, men are expected to balance family and professional life in a way that their fathers may not have been expected to, and, therefore, fathers from previous generations are not equipped, experientially, to inform their sons of what works. It is conceivable that these changes challenge traditional, potentially historic gender norms, which are understood by a set of traits, for example, strength, decisiveness, and provider, bundled into the word masculinity. Through the process of bundling characteristics, perhaps the value of each characteristic is lost through a collective evaluation of the word masculinity as opposed to an evaluation of the component parts. A potential result of this is that we constrict the ways in which boys and young men can express their masculinity. As an anecdotal reflection of this constraint, one of our staff members drew upon professional experience gained in 2008 of working with boys and young men at risk of school exclusion in an inner London secondary school. Talking about antisocial group activity, definitionally distinct from gang activity, it was suggested that some of the behaviours resulted from pressures that were felt from personal, educational, familial, and social spheres that boiled over as stress. Essentially, that there was a correlation between potential mental health issues and the antisocial behaviours. To paraphrase the response, one of the young men stated that there were 3 broad states of being, only one of which was acceptable among peers, male or female. These dynamics were mad, defined by this young person as mentally unwell, bad, angry, and sad, upset or fearful. Only bad was seen as acceptable. The other 2 were seen as a sign of weakness, suggesting that this group, individually and collectively, engaged in adopting a social mask that hid vulnerability and rewarded perceived power or strength. The term toxic masculinity has come into greater use in recent years. Used in various contexts, it describes a series of behaviors and traits that cause harm to a wider society. Antisocial behavior, violent and sexual crime, for example, or that cause harm to men themselves, substance abuse, low academic attainment, and suicide, for example. A particular challenge is that the term implies masculinity holds little value and is often destructive. While this may be the case for some, it is not the case for all. And in order to better understand how the term masculinity is understood by the boys and young men we work with, a series of focus groups were convened to discuss the topic. What do the people you work with say about masculinity? We know this is what you really want to hear and know about, but we have to clarify how the information was brought together before getting into that part. So here's the methodology. We wanted to hear from groups of young people from each of the areas we work in. Focus groups of 6 to 8 people, where possible, were convened to participate for a minimum of an hour to take part in a group activity that fostered a conversation about masculinity. In order to nudge the participants along, participants were given a number of sentences broadly linked to masculinity. For example, men should be good at sport. And the direction was to organise the phrases into categories ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. After each participant had considered the sentences they received and placed them where they felt represented their beliefs, the group was asked to reflect and deeper questions were posed. Reflections from the groups generally stated that the participants enjoyed the activity and they found it easier to talk about masculinity than if they had simply been asked questions about something to focus their attention on. There were some high-level findings. Subsequent posts will dive into the specific details of what was said among the groups. However, there were core themes that came out across the groups that influenced how participants understood and spoke about masculinity and their views on how it is changing. Those themes were, number 1, the influence of social pressures owing to masculinity diminish with age. Number 2, culture plays an important role in how masculinity is defined. Number 3, The way in which masculinity is understood has changed over time. Number 4, a person's role and responsibilities impact how they see masculinity. And number 5, life experiences shape their understanding of masculinity and the impact it had on them. Having set the scene for the blog series, the next post will dive into one of the focus groups to bring to life what was discussed. You have been listening to Future Men Audio. To find out more, go to www.futuremen.org. That's www.futuremen.org. Or connect with us on Twitter at FutureMenUK or LinkedIn under Future Men.